Hi everybody, welcome to the Mild Rumpus, coming at you live from the House of Flimsy, aka my dilapidated one-bedroom apartment here in New York City that is filled with books and noise. Today I will be sharing all of the books that are on my TBR for the month of March. All right, everybody, I want you to journey back in time with me for a second. Do you remember at the very beginning of the month of February, there was that Grammy Awards ceremony and it blew everyone away? Tracy Chapman showed up and did Fast Car, and Joni Mitchell wheeled out and did Both Sides Now, and Billy Joel played like the first new song in 30-something years. There was another moment from that show that I really loved, and that was when Miley Cyrus came out to sing Flowers right after winning her first Grammy Award, and she was just like, "Party for one, y'all." And so that song was stuck in my head for like the rest of the week. It was a total earworm. And then my little pea brain got to thinking. I went out and I thrifted books, and one of the books I picked up was Jenny Slate's Little Weirds. And it's just sitting there on the table, and I'm looking at it, and then I'm listening to the song in my head. If I I'm looking at flowers and March, spring, and I came up with the dumbest idea for a theme when setting up my TBR. And the idea was very simple and, granted, very silly and stupid, but it was to only read books that featured flowers on the cover artwork. So I have a stack of 12 books here that all feature flowers on their cover artwork. There might be one or two questionable ones, but for the most part, they all feature flowers, and they come from different genres. And I think that even though it's a silly premise, I found some really good books as a result of like digging through the stacks. So let's start with the book that really started it all, and that is Jenny Slate's Little Weirds. If you're not familiar with Jenny Slate, she's an actress and a comedian, very, very funny. She came up with the idea of Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, the little online clip that later turned into an A24 movie. But this is really just a gathering of essays and sometimes random thoughts. It gives you a perspective of how she views the world and sort of processes things. I'll go ahead and read the synopsis for all the books that I'm selecting this month. So this one says, "To see the world through Jenny Slate's eyes is to see it through for the first time, shimmering with strangeness and possibility. As she will remind you, we live on the ancient ball that rotates around a bigger ball made up of lights and gases that are science gases, not farts. Don't be immature. Heartbreak, confusion, and misogyny stalk the blue-green sphere. Yes, but it also is a place of wild delight and unconstrained vitality, a place where we can start living as soon as we are born, and we can be born at any time." In her dazzling, impossible to categorize debut, Slate channels the pain and beauty of life in writing so fresh, so new, and so burstingly alive that we catch her vision like a fever and bring it back out into the bright day with us, and everything has changed. Little Weirds, Jenny Slate. The next book is also nonfiction. For me, this was like my most anticipated book of the year. I'm a huge fan of this author, Olivia Laing. I first learned about her work when I read The Lonely City, Adventures in the Art of Being Alone. This is her brand new book. It's going to be coming out in June, The Garden Against Time. And this is another one I've already read, but it basically is about her purchasing a home and restoring a garden right during the time of the lockdown and the presidential election and all of that, right? And then the beautiful thing about Olivia Laing is reading her books is sort of like surfing YouTube and falling down a wormhole. You know how you'll like search something of interest and you'll click on a video, you'll watch a video and you'll be like, "Oh, that's really cool." And then you'll learn about something in that video, and then you click on that to learn more about that, and then you fall down another wormhole. That's what it's like reading her books. And she always brings up very interesting connections to like literature and art and things that happened in her own life. She's just a brilliant writer, and I cannot wait to read every book that she ever releases. I'm such a huge fan. The next book is the book that I'm currently reading. I am about 50 pages in, and it's the first book I've ever read by this author. I'm just starting to get to know her. Not quite sure what I think yet, but I'm going to withhold my judgment until I finish the book. And that is Among Flowers, A Walk in the Himalayas by Jamaica Kincaid. In this travel memoir, the acclaimed novelist Jamaica Kincaid chronicles a 3-week trek through Nepal, the spectacular and exotic Himalayan land where she and her companions are gathering seeds for planting at home. The natural world, and in particular plants and gardening, are central to Kincaid's work. In addition to such novels as Annie, John, and Lucy, Kincaid is the author of My Garden Book, a collection of essays about her love of cultivating plants and gardens throughout her life. Among Flowers intertwines meditations on nature and stunning descriptions of the Himalayan landscape with observations on the ironies, difficulties, and dangers of this magnificent journey. Now, I know that there are a bunch of different book events and read-alongs that take place during the month of March, and I knew I couldn't take on a mammoth this month, but I did figure that I could squeeze in a middle grade book for middle grade March, and for that book, I selected Jewell Parker Rhodes' Ninth Ward. And look, there's a flower. 12-year-old Lanisha lives in a tight-knit community in New Orleans' Ninth Ward. She doesn't have a fancy house like her uptown family or lots of friends like the other kids on her street, but she does have Mama Yaya, her fiercely loving caretaker, wise in the ways of the world and able to predict the future. So when Mama Yaya's visions show a powerful hurricane, Katrina, fast approaching, it's up to Lanisha to call upon the hope and strength Mama Yaya has given her to help them both survive the storm. This book has to have one of the absolute best covers that I have ever seen, The Glutton by A.K. Blakemore. 1798, France, so it's historical fiction. Nuns move along the dark corridors of a Versailles hospital where the young Sister Perpetua has been tasked with sitting with the patient who must always be watched. Gaunt and ailing, the man is rumored to have eaten a golden fork that is killing him from the inside. What's more, he is said to have done monstrous things in his attempt to sate an insatiable appetite. An appetite, they say, tortures him still. But such frightful stories can hardly be true. Sister Perpetua will plunge into the darkness and find out for herself. And here's yet another stunning cover, The Waters by Bonnie Jo Campbell. Herbalist and eccentric Ermine herself Zook has healed the local women of their ailments for generations. As stubborn as her tonics are powerful, herself inspires reverence and fear in the people of Whiteheart, and even in her own 3 estranged daughters. The youngest, the beautiful and lazy Rose Thorn, has left her own daughter, 11-year-old Dorothy Donkey Zook, to grow up wild. Donkey spends her days searching for truths in the lush landscape and in her math books, waiting for her wayward mother and longing for a father, unaware that family secrets, passionate love, and violent men will flood through the swamp and upend her idyllic childhood. Rage simmers below the surface of this divided community, and those on both sides of the divide have closed their doors against the enemy. The only bridge across the waters is Rose Thorn. So in the I'm So Annoyed tag video, I talked about how I bought all of these E.M. Forster books through Vintage Classics because I liked the book design with the little diamonds on the cover. This is the last of those books that I have left to read, and conveniently, there are flowers on the cover. This is A Passage to India by E.M. Forster. Among the greatest novels of the 20th century, A Passage to India turns on a tragic clash of cultures in British India after the turn of the century, at the height of the Indian independence movement. Centering on an ambiguous incident between a young Englishwoman of uncertain stability and an Indian doctor eager to know his conquerors better, Forster's book explores both the historical chasm between the peoples and the eternal one between individuals struggling to ease their isolation and make sense of their humanity. This next book is by an author that I've never read anything from. Honestly, it's the one I'm least excited about reading. Just kind of thumbing through the book, it looks like the one that could be dry and kind of boring and difficult to get through. But the synopsis sounds really good, so I'm going to give it a chance. Travels with My Aunt by Greene. Described by Greene as the only book I have ever written for the fun of it, Travels with My Aunt is the story of Henry Pulling, a retired and complacent bank manager who meets his Aunt Augusta for the first time at what he supposes to be his mother's funeral. She soon persuades Henry to abandon his dull suburban existence to travel her way to Brighton, Paris, Istanbul, Paraguay. Through Aunt Augusta, one of Greene's greatest comic creations, Henry joins a shiftless twilight society, mixes with hippies, war criminals, and CIA men, smokes pot, and breaks all currency regulations. The only thing I know about this next book is that it was self-published and it blew up on Book Talk and it became a whole big series. And I've heard mixed things about it. Like, I know that people that love it, and the people that hate it think it's just complete garbage and trash. But it's Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. And if you look closely, very closely, there are flowers on the cover. How many loves do you get in a lifetime? She is a beautiful, self-involved, and mildly neurotic London socialite. He is Britain's most photographed bad boy who broke her heart. But Magnolia Parks and BJ Ballantyne are meant to be, aren't they? And there's the back cover, which is quite a juxtaposition to the beautiful illustration on the front cover. Huh? We'll see. This next book is published by one of my favorite booksellers here in New York, McNally Jackson. They have their own line of books called McNally Editions, which are short stories and novellas that have kind of been forgotten or are very, very obscure. This one is called Twice Lost by Phyllis Paul, and the entire cover is nothing but flowers, so take that in. In a rustic, idyllic English village on a summer's day, in the midst of a carefree tennis party, a fragile, needy child left too much on her own vanishes from her family's front garden. Years pass and the mystery persists, an enduring torment for the teenage Christine Gray, the last person to see Vivian alive. Perhaps if she'd shown the girl a little kindness and seen her safely home, Vivian might still be with them. Yet when someone claiming to be a grown-up Vivian returns to the land of the living, the enigma only deepens, threatening to consume the wicked and innocent alike. Ooh. Now these next two are the questionable ones, but this is abstract art, friends. And my interpretation is it's floral. It's a flower. It might be underwater, but in my mind, I look at this and I see flowers. Virginia Woolf, Orlando. As his tale begins, Orlando is a passionate young nobleman whose days are spent in rowdy revelry, filled with the colorful delights of Queen Elizabeth's court. By the close, he will have transformed into a modern 36-year-old woman, and 3 centuries will have passed. Orlando will witness the making of history from its edge, dressing in the flamboyant fashions of each era, following passing customs, and socializing with celebrated artists and writers. Virginia Woolf's most unusual and fantastic creation, Orlando is a funny, exuberant tale that examines the very nature of sexuality. And you know what? Let's just admire the design of this book for a moment, please. I mean, really, take it in. Give it up to Penguin. My God, they do a good job. If you watched my wrap-up video for the month of January, you know that I am reading Ali Smith's seasonal quartet. This is Spring, and I am sure if you look really closely somewhere in that field, there has to be a flower. Somewhere. What unites Catherine Mansfield, Charlie Chaplin, Shakespeare, Beethoven, Brexit, the present, the past, the north, the south, the west, the east, a man mourning lost times, a woman trapped in modern times? Spring, the great connective. With an eye to the migrancy of story over time, and riffing on Pericles, one of Shakespeare's most resistant and rollicking works, Ali Smith tells the impossible tale of an impossible time. In a time of walls and lockdowns, Smith opens the door. The time we're living in is changing nature. Will it change the nature of story? Hope springs eternal. So that is Spring by Ali Smith, and that does it for this stack of books that I plan to read in the month of March. Be sure to let me know if you have read any of the books that are on my TBR, and if so, what did you think of them? Let me know what you're reading. As always, feed that algorithm, do the likes and the rings and the ding ding dings and whatever it is that gets the video out there. But most importantly, leave a comment, say hello, let me know what you're reading. I will see you at the end of the week with my wrap-up video. And as always, thank you for watching, and until next time, happy reading. Bye.